Welcome to Things I Wish I Knew, the podcast from Thinking Faith, a work with the Jesuits in Britain. I'm Julia, I'm in my early 30s, and I used to live in a Jesuit young adult community. We all live hectic lives and often don't get time to reflect on what's happening both to us and around us. This podcast is meant to help you take a moment to stop and think about where you are, where you're going, and where your relationship with God fits into it all. Every week I meet a new guest who tells me about something they experienced which changed their life forever. And by talking about the things they wish they'd known at the time, we'll explore the idea that God is in all things, and we'll talk about the part that faith plays in navigating life's challenges. Today I'm speaking to Laura. She grew up in Colombia, and after working for different NGOs, she moved here to the UK to do a master's. What impacted me about Laura's story is how her experience in Colombia impacts her work and how she responds to people. So Laura, what was it like growing up in Colombia?
It's the most amazing country. Of course, I'm biased, but I could stay here talking forever of how amazing the country is because the weather is amazing, the food is amazing, the people are amazing. But when I was growing up, Colombia used to have the longest armed conflict in the world. And even when that, I'm privileged enough because I wasn't, or any of my family was part of that or was directly touched by the conflict, that was always in the background. So in the news, you can hear always news about that. And basically, I grew up hearing about the conflict. So that gave me a lot of perspective also because my dad used to be a judge. So those two things mixed inside me. And I grew up feeling that I wanted to do something, that I wanted to create a change in my country first. So that's why I grew up in Colombia. I had a really happy childhood years and all of that. But yeah, always with this sad background.
Did your dad being a judge inspire you?
Yes, he inspired me to study political science. He's a lawyer, but it's funny because I was convinced that I needed to work inside the government to be able to do a change. I have never had any positions inside the government and I'm not planning to at this point. I didn't know exactly why or what, but he inspired me to study something related with society and to understand the context and to know more why things were in the way they were. So, yes.
Can you tell me more about studying at the Jesuit University in Colombia?
For me, my university time was a life-changing experience. I went really young to university, and university opened me a new world. So I truly believe in the Jesuit education in the way that it transforms you because it's not just the academical part of the things, but also it's the integral part of it. So being able to go to the university there allowed me to do a lot of volunteer work and to know another realities, to be able to interact with people with different backgrounds. So I felt that I had the privilege of enjoy a really integral education. That's what the Jesuit education is looking for at the end. So yes, it was a transformative experience for me, and it kind of showed me what I wanted to do because I used to be part of two volunteers, one during the semester and the other one at the end of the semester. And I used to go to more rural or neglected places in the country to do social projects with people in the communities. I realized that that was what I wanted to do for a living. At the time, of course, I didn't know how to combine those things. At the end, I could. But yes, it showed me the path that I wanted to follow, basically.
And so how did you get started on that path?
I think the first step was, as I said, being able to participate in all these volunteer opportunities and all those things that the Jesuit education, because I know it's not just the university that I went, but it's just all the Jesuit education offers. And then I knew that I wanted to have a work where I could be directly in touch with people. Of course, you're always going to have a work where you have your desk and you have your computer and it's you and answering emails. But I knew that I wanted to have a job where I could have contact with people, where I can be directly involved with communities, where I could go and see how they live and be sensitive and be present. So the first job that I had after graduation was because of the longest conflict in Colombia. There is an organization who deal with IDPs, international displaced people in Colombia. So that was my first job after university. So basically I needed to interview them to see how they were living and to check that they were like living in good conditions anyway. And then that was like my first experience. It was really hard because even when I was really sensitive, I didn't have like any training on psychological tools, if you wish. And of course, if you are going to be in a really sensitive environment, you need to be able to have like psychological tools available to deal with personal stories. But that taught me a lot. And I'm so grateful because I think that job shaped the rest of the jobs that I have had. Then I started to work with WFP, the Work Food Program in Colombia. They were managing a program where they have like mobile units, and they used to go to different places in the country to reach kids and to give them food, but also like do all the integral thing that is behind food. So basically they were giving psychological services to the kids. They were doing like training for the parents, these type of things, not just giving food and gone. And then since 2015, there are a lot of Venezuelans coming to Colombia because Venezuela is going through I don't know how to call that, but people is leaving the country because of the political situation that is happening there. So before coming here, I worked with UNHCR in Bogota, that is the capital of the country, and I was in charge of all the humanitarian aid projects that UNHCR Bogota used to offer. And that was also really special because it allowed me to understand all the things that refugees and migrants need to go through every time they flee their own countries. And I still have that feeling and that, how do you say that? Like, I'm still really sensitive because of that experience. Also, because now I'm a migrant myself. It's not the same, but that's the way that I have found before coming here to combine those two things. And then I came to study a master's degree in human rights. And I decided to stay because I found the job in Jesuit Missions.
Mm. So how has your experience in Colombia shaped your approach to international development?
I think that because I had the opportunity to work before coming here and to be in the other side, I have like an special sensibility in the way that now I'm working in a rich country who is the one who has the funds to give to countries that are not so rich. But I used to work in a country that doesn't have so many resources. So I think that I can bring that perspective to the work that I'm doing because I'm really aware what it means to send money on time, to be supportive with the partners, because I used to be in the other side. So I think that I bring to the job that I'm doing.
Mm. So you work for Jesuit Mission, and when people traditionally think of mission or missionary, they think of somebody taking their faith to a different country. But how has that shifted?
Yeah, that's the way that it used to be when Jesuit Missions started. So it was basically British missionaries going to Africa, Asia, Latin America to teach faith. That's not the way that it is anymore. So basically now, and I think that is something that could be different from like working in Jesuit missions that working in other types of NGOs. It's that now, even when we still work with Jesuits in the ground, they were born there now. They are part of the community where they are working. So it doesn't feel that you are imposing something. Of course, we as an institution, we have priorities and there are some geographical areas that we are more interested on. But still, we work with them as a partners. So we hear their voices. We are worried about their concerns. We try to amplify their voices. So we don't go to a specific country saying, this is a piece of work that we want to do. Who can implement that for us? It's basically the community. It's organized around the thing that they want to solve or the problem that they have. And we came giving money, but also helping them to raise their voice. So we don't impose, as I say, we don't impose anything to them. It's basically we accompany the community. That's the difference. Yeah, we used to come from this old vision of what a missionary was, but now everything is coming from the communities. Now everything is with a bottom-up emphasis beyond than us telling them what to do. And we also recognize that because we are partners, we also have things to learn from them. It's not just us giving them training and letting them know what we want and what we expect. It's also asking, what do you want from us? What do you need from us? What type of resources we can do?
So I guess it's, in a way, a good demonstration of Catholic social teaching in that it's subsidiarity. It's giving people the power to make the decisions for themselves rather than someone making the decision for them and saying, here's this money, you need to spend it this way. It's more saying, like, how can you empower yourselves as a community to do what works best for you?
Yeah, and even when the places that we work, of course, are historical places where the British province used to be, or like countries where that were part of the British province in the past. Even when there is that, we know that we need to change. We know that we need to evolve those type of relationships. So now, as I was saying, all the missionaries are part of the community, and we work with that, and yeah, we trust their views.
So what does decolonizing mission work mean for you personally?
So for me, I think that I'm a mix of everything, because now I'm here in the UK working, but also I'm not from here, I'm not from Europe. So it means to bring their voices, to listen to them, to, of course, I need to ask questions and read reports and make comments, but it's also to understand that they are our partners. So we work together, we are in the same level, and we have some knowledge that probably they don't, but in the same way, in the other way around. They have some knowledge and they have some experience, and they are there in the front line, you could say, doing the work, and there is bravery on that. We cannot say that they are doing a bad job, or we cannot say we cannot teach them how to do their work. So that for me is decolonize the work that I do. Bring their voices. Don't talk in their behalf. They have their own voices. Give them a platform to express themselves.
Like, you just reminded me of when I went to Sierra Leone when I stayed there for 4 weeks, and I was visiting local farmers and their projects, and they were showing me how they grind up different seeds and stuff, and they were like, your turn, and then I was absolutely useless at it, so definitely would not have any advice. But do you have any projects that you've seen firsthand which have stayed with you or struck you?
Yeah, last year I had the opportunity to visit Zambia and Zimbabwe, and of course, even when those used to be historical places and we have historical ties with those countries, now we are supporting some projects that are trying to retain children in the schools. So giving them like a bike or something to eat or the uniform or toiletries, you can help them to keep going to school. And I had the opportunity in Zambia to meet one young boy. His name is Timothy. And basically, he used to live really far from the school, and he needed to walk like 3 hours to reach school every day, and 3 hours to go back to his house every day. And because of that, he was, of course, really tired. He wasn't being able to pay properly attention in class. He used to reach school after the breakfast time, so sometimes he didn't have any breakfast. So the situation wasn't good. He used to live just with his grandmother. His parents abandoned him. And then he started to be part of the program that we are supporting there, that it's called Joesa. And he received a bike. And of course, his life changed massively, because now it takes him like 45 minutes, 1 hour to reach the school. He never missed breakfast again. Now he's one of the best of the class. And he was telling me that he wants to graduate and go to school, and he wants to become a doctor and stay in the community to help. So that stayed with me, but not with a pity feeling. I don't feel, and I never felt pity for him. I feel that, and that's also related with Decolonize, the work that we do. We need to help people to empower themselves. We need to see them not just like the poor boy that I need to help, the poor boy that needs something from me. Of course, he needs our support, but he's a person who has their own tools, and we can empower him to be whatever he would like to, but from a responsibility sense, more than a pity. So yeah, that was really powerful.
So I guess how mission has changed is it's more about empowering people
Exactly.
in this time and age. And I think whether you're doing mission work internationally or in this country, it's still that same. Like, people need empowering.
Yeah, totally. And if you recognize that they have their own strengths, I think that's the first step. You don't know. I mean, of course, you know things, but I cannot go over there to tell people in Guyana, for example, how to do their work if I work in Wimbledon. So that wouldn't have any sense. And that's something that I have found really interesting with working with the Jesuits here. Because, of course, the Jesuits are part of the church, but they allow to do this empowering work and this accompanying work with communities that they are working with.
So what's the difference between working for Jesuit Missions and a larger NGO?
I will say that the bottom-up emphasis with the larger NGOs that I worked with, they used to have procedures and priorities that not even those procedures and those priorities were not even like chose inside of the country that we were working. Like, they were chosen in some HQ office in Switzerland or wherever. And I think that's the difference. Also, the motivation. Like, of course, I think that we are really touched by the Ignatian spirituality. So we have time to reflect on the work that we do and to say, probably this is not the way that we would like to, and correct that work or that path. So yeah, like the motivation to do the work, I have found that it comes from a different place.
That does make a lot of sense. And I guess I kind of want to go back to the communities that you work with. But it might also be a question of how you work as well. How do you see God at work in the communities you support?
I would say that, first of all, I'm really sensitive about the story of the places that I'm going to. And when I'm there, I really enjoy to speak with people, not just with the project staff, but also with the beneficiaries of our project, if you wish, not just to ask them their stories and how the project has impacted their lives. That's really important. Please don't get me wrong. But also to know their perspective about the country that they live in. And yeah, what is the vision? What is their views? Like, I really like to listen the different stories and the different worries and everything. And I think that's invaluable in the work that I do. And that keeps me sensitive, because if you lose your sensibility, it doesn't have any sense to keep doing this type of work.
I guess you're seeing that person as an individual with their own dignity and respect, rather than just a beneficiary of the project as well.
Yeah. And I really like to say every time that we run a campaign or every time that we reach our supporters, that it's important to say that our beneficiaries are people with dignity more than pity faces.
I guess it also comes down to that mentality of it's us and them, but actually seeing everyone as our brothers and sisters.
Exactly, yes.
What do you wish more people understood about privilege and responsibility in mission work?
That there is nothing wrong with having privilege. The wrong thing is not to do anything with it. So, and I'm saying this like in a personal level. Of course, I recognize that I'm a really, really privileged person. I went in a country where going to university is a privilege. I went to a really good university, and I had the privilege to come here to do a master's degree and to be able to study in a different country. Even when I'm struggling with it, I'm able to speak another other language. And now I'm working here, and I know I'm white, and I know that I'm really a really privileged person. But I try to, every time that I speak, I try to use that as a base and say, I know that I'm talking from the privilege, but whatever, you name it. That's something that is always in the top of my head, that I'm a really privileged person because I had a lot of opportunities. And that's the only difference from me and from a refugee in South Sudan, that I had all these opportunities, that someone invested in my education, someone gave me food. Even when I grew up in a country who has who used to have an internal conflict, I was privileged enough to be able to live in different cities where that was happening. So that is always in the top of my head. And I think in a way that could be, that could inspire me because I don't need to find inspiration, external inspiration for the things that I believe or for how I see things. I found them in my own history, in my own country, in the realization of the things that I have. And the only difference between me and the person who doesn't have that is that I was born in a specific family. You need to embrace your privilege to be able to do something with it, in the same time that you need to embrace the history of the place that you were born to try to change it. So yeah, I would like people to be more aware of that. That it's totally okay to have privilege, but you need to do something with your privilege. Starting for saying, I'm privileged, that's why I have the responsibility to do something, but from the empowering path, not from better or I have this and I'm superior or whatever. No, from embrace your responsibility.
I guess there's the challenge of people acknowledging their privilege in the first place.
Yes.
And is there a way to support people with that?
Specifically with the work that we do, I think that's something that we try to do through the campaigns and through the advocacy work that we do. But sometimes it's hard to say people, you need to be aware that the place you were born and all the privilege that you have for that, because that message is not well taken among people in the majority of the cases. So we try to be aware of that without telling people what to do, because that could be offensive in a different way as well. I think there is a quite challenging balance to have when you are saying that to people.
Yeah, definitely. And not everybody in this country comes from a place where they grew up as a multimillionaire. So
yes, exactly.
A lot of people in this country have a lot of their own challenges and struggles, and why that might be very different from people who are living in extreme poverty. There's still the reality of their own situation.
Exactly. And we try to connect what is happening here with what is happening around the world. So I think that could be the key in some way, like try to show that what you do here, it has an effect on what is happening in any other place in the world.
Yeah, that's very true. I used to talk with young people about how we support our brothers and sisters around the world, and trying to get them to realise that the actions that you take in this country has an impact globally. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. I used to say this quote all the time, but there's a quote that before you even had your breakfast, you have like relied on half of the world. The idea that like you get out of bed, you like probably didn't make your, like physically make the bed, didn't make the sheets. You go downstairs to have breakfast. You've probably not grown the food yourself, etc. You can make small decisions that can have a real difference on other people's lives.
And I think it's also this Jesuit concept that we all are connected, and we are. So I think that we try to show that through the campaigns and through the things that we advocate for. But of course, trying to have a balance between what I was saying and what people understand about privilege or the reason why they don't see their privilege.
It's really challenging actually to think about in terms of where privilege comes from, because I think quite often we assume it comes from your financial situation, but actually, if you just said, it's also about what opportunities you have and where you've happened to be born or which family you've grown up with. I think that's something that's going to stay with me. That thinking about actually, it's not necessarily about what money you have or had. It's just about the opportunities you've been given.
Yeah, and what you do with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the way that, like, going back to the what is the way that I decolonize the work that I do. And I think that we give people opportunities. And I think that empower people. If we give them opportunities, for example, Timothy, the project gave him a bike. That was an opportunity for him to grow up and be able to have food or like go to the school. And it was an opportunity. It is not because, I'm superior, It's because we give him an opportunity that otherwise he wouldn't be able to have. And I think that's also part of the work that we do and the part of how decolonize the work, giving opportunities, understanding that that's the only thing that it's different from us than from others and from the people that are being the beneficiaries of the projects that we work with.
And I guess also opportunities is about giving people the opportunity to make a choice.
Exactly.
So that young boy who you mentioned, he has the choice now to go to school or, I don't know, go to the market, do something else. But he's been empowered with his opportunity to go to school and he'll finish his education.
Mm-hmm. And he has more time now and he can study and he can read and do those things that he wasn't being able before.
So what do you wish you knew about decolonizing mission work?
That doing a job from a decolonized perspective will take the others to decolonize as well. And even when that could be really obvious, sometimes the places that I have had the privilege to visit, I realized that the project staff or the beneficiaries, they still have a really colonized mindset. So that is really obvious, but that was also really shocking when I started to realize that it was necessary not just to be decolonized for me and for my work, but also try to give the opportunity to others to think what they were doing in a decolonized emphasis. So I will say that try to understand that not everyone have had the opportunity to decolonize the way that they do their work and try to balance. That's really challenging and I'm still working on that.
And what are you most grateful for?
I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I have had in my life. That's how I'm here today. So yeah, I'm really grateful.
Well, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to Things I Wish I Knew. I know this episode is going to change the way I think about privilege. Laura shared how it's about the opportunities you receive and the choices you make. How about you? We'd love to hear how Laura's story resonated with you, and why not also tell us if you're facing an experience you wish you knew how to look at differently. It might just be something we can help with. Find out more about this theme and others at thinkingfaith.org. Thank you again for listening, and I hope you'll join me again next time on Things I Wish I Knew.